Okay, hello year 9s. What I'm going to do in this next video is go through the next section in your learning booklets. This is a section on multiplying and dividing algebraic terms. So that's what we're going to be doing in this section. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the notes, but also go through the examples in the blue boxes. They're probably just a little bit darker. They don't look blue because we printed it out in black and white. So let's go through it. So when we're multiplying and dividing algebraic terms, the thing to remember is that with algebra, which is this whole topic that we're doing, multiplication and division are usually hidden when we write our algebraic term. So let me just remind you, when you see a term like this, for example, if you see 5a, when you see the expression 5a, what does that tell you? Well, that just tells you I'm actually doing 5 times a. So when we're doing multiplication in algebra, we usually hide our multiplication step. So what we're going to do is that when we do multiplication, we are going to just write our terms together. That's what we do usually when we deal with multiplication in algebra. In the same way, when we write division, we don't usually write a division symbol. Often what you'll see is something like this. You'll have 5 over a. And that tells me I'm doing 5 divided by a. So what we're doing is we're writing terms without a gap. Ooh, I can't spell. Without a gap. And so in these next sections, we're going to actually go through the steps that are required when we do multiplication and division with algebraic terms. But just to remind you, when we write algebraic terms, multiplication and division are often hidden from our terms. So let's have a go at a couple of examples where we do this. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at multiplication. So what I have here is a few notes. When I'm multiplying algebraic terms, there's two kind of big steps you want to do. The first one is you multiply the coefficients together. Let me just remind you, when you see the word coefficients, what does that mean? Well, if you remember from the previous parts, coefficients are just your numbers before your pronumerals. So your numbers before your pronumerals are called the coefficients. What we're going to do is the first step when we multiply algebraic terms is we're going to multiply the coefficients together. Okay, then the second step is that you just write the letters together alphabetically. When we multiply, we get rid of the multiplication symbol. And so how we do this is we write them without a gap. So we just write the letters together. Now I have a note here that we're going to deal with a little bit later. But if you have more than one pronumeral of a pronumeral, so let's say you're multiplying x times x, we raise it to a power. So what this means is that we count how many of them there are. So there's 2 of them here. And so what I'm going to do, I'm going to change that into a different color. There's 2 of them there. So what I do is I raise it to a power of however many they are. And we're going to actually deal with this in a future section and also in later on. So here, when I do x times x, I'm just going to do x squared. So let's have a go at a couple examples here. So let's have a go at this first one down here. I want to simplify these following algebraic terms. The first one is 3 times 2b. 3 times 2b. Now here, if I'm doing 3 times 2b, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the steps that I've written down over here. The first step is I'm going to multiply the coefficients together. I'm just going to multiply the numbers together. Let's have a look at this example. I've got 3 here and 2 here. All I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply those two together. So here, for 3 times 2b, I'm just going to multiply the numbers together. So I'm going to get 3 times 2. What's 3 times 2? That will give me 6. So here I'm just going to write a 6. Then I'm going to multiply the algebraic pronumerals together, the letters together. Now if you have a look, the only letter that I have here is my B. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to write a B at the end. So for this first one, what I'm going to get is 3 times 2b is just 6b. Okay, hopefully that was pretty easy. All we do is multiply the coefficients together first, and then we multiply the letters together by writing them together in our second step. Let's have a go at part B. I've got negative 2a times 3b. So let's go through those steps again. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply the coefficients together. Let's identify our coefficients of our two algebraic terms here. The first one, in my negative 2a, what's my coefficient? Well, my coefficient is just a number before my pronumeral, so I'm just going to circle it here. That's my minus 2. That's my minus 2. What's my coefficient in my second term, 3b? Well, once again, it's just a number before my algebraic pronumeral, so the number before the letters, and that's just my 3 here. So I'm going to multiply the two together. So negative 2 times 3 will give you, well, if you remember from when we did positive and negative integers, negative times a positive will give me a negative. So here I'm going to have negative 2 times 3. What's 2 times 3? Well, it's 6 again. Perfect. So I'm going to have negative 6. Now that I've done that, I'm going to deal with the algebraic pronumerals. If you have a look here, what I wrote was I need to write the letters together, and I've put a side note. I want to write them alphabetically. Usually mathematicians have a rule. It's kind of like a procedure, kind of like a code, or yeah, just a code that we follow. We usually write it alphabetically. So we have A and B. A and B. So all I'm going to do at the end here is I'm just going to write them together. So that's going to be negative 6, A, B. When I'm multiplying algebraic terms together, all I want to do is I want to write my I want to multiply my coefficients first. So that's what we did here with our negative 2 and our 3. Multiply my coefficients together. Then I write the letters together at the end alphabetically. So that's what we did when we were multiplying algebraic pronumerals.